Elizondo, I'm going to play a couple clips, but I'll set the stage for this. Luis Elizondo is been making the rounds on podcast circuit and TV news. If you don't know who he is, he's a former and maybe current Department of Defense employee who was involved in the DOD's investigation of UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them. In the last month, he's been on Joe Rogan, Theories of Everything, Ross Coulthart, CBS, Glenn Beck, and a bunch more. And he's promoting his book called Imminent. And this guy, what I want to talk about is this guy just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't know what it is about him. He just gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. But my suspicion of Luis Elizondo is he is controlled opposition. And what I mean by controlled opposition is he's being allowed by the deep state and the Department of Defense to go out there and say the things he's saying to give an impression about the UFO story, UAP story that is not entirely true. I don't think that he is nefarious. I think he's a useful idiot. But I'm going to play a couple clips from his recent episode with Joe Rogan, and I want to hear if you guys agree or disagree. And are they doing this on the UFO story at all? Like they're controlling the narrative. They're controlling what information is going out there to create a perception of what's going on. So I should be to the clip. I need to be faster about this, but here we go. Which one is it? Okay, so here's the first one.
I am not allowed to talk about what the government may or may not have in its possession, other than that so I went through a very lengthy Pentagon review process. Recently, I wrote, I won't talk about it here, but I wrote something, and I had to go through Pentagon to have a review process, and it took almost a year. In this thing I wrote, I talk about up to the part I can talk about, and they approved for me to talk about up to that point. When it comes to what the government may or may not have in its possession, all I can simply say is that there is very compelling evidence to suggest that the U.S. government is in absolute possession of exotic material that is not made by humans. Now, beyond.
Okay, and then there's another clip. I'll skip it, but there's another clip where he says the same thing, like, I don't have permission to talk about this. So I don't know if you guys looked into Luis Elizondo at all, but interested to hear your thoughts.
I don't understand. Why does that ring alarm bells for you that he can't talk about it?
Because that means he went to somebody in DOD and said, here's the book I want to write. Here's all the information. What can I put in the book and what can't I? And they're saying, well, you can talk about this. You can't talk about this. You can talk about this. You can't talk about this. So,
I mean, is it possible then that that conversation was a little bit more in depth? Like, here are the things that I want to write about. Can you tell me if any of these I can't write about?
Yeah.
In which case it would be like, these are the things that maybe he knows about, right? Maybe he knows about this exotic material and exactly who made it. Maybe it's the Martians. I don't know. Right. But he can't, like, he knows that it's true. Like, he's seen it, he's experienced it, whatever the case may be. And he goes and talks to these people because he doesn't want to lose his security clearance or he doesn't want to get killed. Right. So he goes and talks to them and they say, you can't write about that part.
But that's what's happening. That's the impression. And it's not dissimilar to what Grush was saying in his testimony. Like, I'm allowed to talk about some things, but what are the things they're not letting him talk about? And what's the motivation?
The motivation is they want to keep it secret. His motivation is probably he wants to stay alive. I mean, he's no different than Tucker. When Tucker was talking about stuff, he was like, "Oh, there's stuff I can't say." When he was talking about aliens like 2-3 months ago, so he might be controlled opposition too. Actually, I'm inclined to believe that Tucker is controlled opposition.
Oh fuck! Y'all are about to fight.
No, but I mean, seriously, he did say that during that time. He's like, there are things I can't say or things that have been told to me that I can't repeat or however he framed it. I think this guy probably just wants to stay alive. Like, I don't think, for some reason, I don't feel that the conversation was like, you can say this and you can't say this. It was like, you can say whatever you want. If you say this, we're going to kill you.
And just to be clear, Michael, I agree with you that there are controlled opposition out there. And they, disseminate false information or true information with false information to sort of muddy the waters. I believe that stuff happens. I just don't know if this guy is it. Is it I don't know. If you told me he was, I'm inclined to believe you. I'm just curious why you think it.
And also, there could be other stuff that he has, and maybe that he wants to come out in another book or other things that.
Got to make that cheddar.
Huh?
Got to make that cheddar.
Well, no. I was going to say that he needs to like retain security clearance to be able to access to then write about. And if he writes about this stuff, he won't then have security clearance. So like maybe there's more coming, and in order for him to get that more, he can't talk about this.
So that's possible. So he's a shadowy figure until the 2017 New York Times report, and he was involved in revealing that story in the New York Times about the Tic Tac UFO. And if you look at his history, it's all deep state stuff. He's military, he's DOD, he's ATIP, and he comes out and he has access.
Oh yeah, he's ATIP.
he comes the second that registered in Brad's head.
ATIP, yes, ATIP. He comes out and he like randomly has access to the New York Times. He's on 60 Minutes. Like he's on all these captured media shows, which that's a red flag for me. And he was involved with Bigelow Aerospace and what they were doing at Skinwalker Ranch. And I don't know. I think, and then what he reveals is always, I'm leading to it. There's a crescendo here, but what he reveals is always extraterrestrial, and it's never maybe something that we've built. So what I think is happening with Luis Elizondo, I think that he's genuine, but I think he's being put out there and he's being supported through the To the Stars Academy with Tom DeLonge, and they're sponsored by the Disney They're sponsored by the Disney Corporation. Tom DeLonge is what, Blink 182?
Yeah.
Brad, stop thinking about penis.
You got Tom DeLonge. He loves a tip.
So what I think is happening is they're letting him go out there to talk about the extraterrestrial UFOs and UAPs, but not to talk about the technology that we have been able to reverse engineer and the crafts that we have built, because that's in Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and there's a bunch of money to be made and lost off of that. So to give the impression that all of this is UFO and none of it is human and that we figured it out. That's what I think.
Okay.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I if that's the case, then he's not the only one out there saying stuff. And so I feel like if he was the only one, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, but it's Dr. Stephen Greer, who's kind of the father of disclosure and, a little kooky, and they don't like each other. He's not on 60 Minutes. And what he's saying is they have reverse engineered the technology. It creates free energy, and they're building most of what we see in the sky is actually human made, but he's not getting access to the New York Times. He's not getting access to 60 Minutes. So there's a narrative that is being perpetuated here, I think, and that's to make us think that the only thing going on here is extraterrestrial, which it's happening, but there's also human.
Interterrestrial.
And there's also free energy. There also potentially is free energy out there, or free energy devices that we've been.
I mean, I would love that. My electricity bill has been high as hell. And if we could get, but that goes to a conversation we had on the show before, which is that if that is the kind of stuff that they kill to keep a secret because of how much money would be lost if we all of a sudden had free energy.
Yeah, free energy would be